Hello, everyone, and welcome in. Welcome into a rainy day, a rainy, cool day up here in New England. My name is Rick Farron, and we have got a program here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. I know you're going to really enjoy the program today. Now, a lot of people, they've always said, is Luke a real person? Because I always have him on the Six Screens video suite as our technician. And I do that just to have another moderator on there. And Luke has helped us out numerous times, many times, in getting things straightened out here at the Six Screens. So we appreciate his efforts. But we actually have two technicians here, not all the time, but we have two technicians, and Luke is the chief technician. I'll call him that. And he's going to be telling his story. He's a former Jehovah's Witness, and he's got a story to tell about his life in the Watchtower organization. So we have Anne Marie. She is the host of the program. Hello, Anne Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick. Good afternoon. The Six Screen Sunday. How's everything going for you?
Well, I am just in a very good mood. I've been telling people that last night. We are watching the Watchtower in free fall. We can all be happy over that. I don't see where any former Jehovah's Witness would be in glee seeing the Watchtower continuing to recruit people into the cult. More and more people are leaving, Anne Marie. It's a wonderful thing.
It is a wonderful thing. And from what I read in one post on Reddit, written by or posted by a wife who is stuck at Bethel, all I heard was depression and misery and feeling completely trapped. From the gist that I got from her post on Reddit, and I haven't been able to find it. It was posted about 4 or 5 days ago. Just misery. Nobody has any enthusiasm. Nobody's happy. Everybody's just going through the motions. Everybody's putting on their fake theocratic smile. Oh, isn't this wonderful? Oh, we're so blessed. But they're miserable. That's the message I got. Thank you, Rick.
Well, that's the message. Exactly right. Well, listen, we have got Luke. Are you on the line there with us? I believe you are, Luke. Just say hello to us.
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right. So anyways, Anne Marie, do have Luke on with us. Luke has been a real fan here at the Six Screens. I mean, let's face it, he's been working with us now for going on. He came when we set up the video suite. Luke worked with us. He's been with us for about 17 years now. So we're glad to have a good man like Luke with us. And Luke, I'm going to turn you over to Anne Marie, but I'm here if you guys need me. So Anne Marie, do your thing.
Oh, thank you, my brother. Well, hello. Good afternoon to you, Luke. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. It's good to talk to you. I've heard your name many times over the years. I don't think we've ever spoken, though.
I do believe I met you briefly when I was visiting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And are you doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Actually, probably better than I have for a long time.
Well, Luke, I am very happy to hear that. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show because, specifically, this show was Rick's idea where ex-Jehovah's Witnesses could come on and just tell their story, whether or not they became a Christian or whatever. It's just basically your Watchtower story. Everybody has a story, and every one of us, no matter how good we had it or how bad we had it, none of us came out unscathed. None of us came out without damage and scars and having to adjust and so on. So your story is unique, and I am very thankful you're willing to come on. And would you like to just share whatever it is you feel like sharing about your Watchtower story, Luke?
It goes on. I mean, it even goes on before me, honestly, before I was even born. And I never was comfortable with sharing because I was afraid of being cut off from my family, and things have changed over the past year quite a bit where I don't have to have that fear anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Not necessarily in a good way, but things have changed where I don't have that fear of not being able to have contact with the members of my family that I still do. My father was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. Mark PALO. A lot of people know him. He had the program Behind Closed Doors. He passed away about 5 years ago, but he went through a lot. He was raped and when he was a child. I'm not going to put any names out there, but he went through a lot of. He went through hell. And when he met my mother was an immigrant from Jamaica, and in her late teens, she met my father, and she had experienced a great deal of physical abuse as a child. And when she found the Jehovah's Witnesses, she felt like she found the answer to everything. And her and my father got married, and my father, being raised in the Witnesses, he held up his part, but my father was always that kind of. He was always kind of the person that we could go to separate from my mom, that wouldn't just shove religion down our throat and make us, because as a child, I guess growing up, one of the main things is that I could get straight A's in school. I even skipped a couple of grades, but yet the only thing that I ever got praised for was anything that I did that was related to Jehovah's Witnesses. If I gave a talk, when I became a actual publisher, all the way up to getting baptized, before I was even a teenager, that was my life. Everything revolved around Jehovah's Witnesses growing up. I grew up with there was 3 brothers and 2 sisters. There was 6 of us.
Yeah.
And that was the main thing in our life, that we could do good with anything else, but nothing got us praise and got us that praise you want from your parents, that you seek as a child.
Right.
You never got anything like that except for when you did something that was related to the religion. So it was and then as I got older, my father was an alcoholic. He had an issue with alcohol. He was never physically abusive to us, or even really verbally abusive to us as children. It was more between him and my mother, and they separated a few times, and then later on got divorced. But he did his best, and he still did the best he could by his family. He had a hard time with what he experienced as a child, and he was raped, sexually abused by a brother in New York, and nothing was ever really done about it. It was kind of shoved under the carpet and forgotten about. And when I was about maybe 9 or 10 years old, he disassociated himself and decided that he wanted nothing to do with the Witnesses. However, my mother, I guess the way she grew up, and when she found the Witnesses, the whole, there's going to be this beautiful paradise. The world's going to be perfect. There's going to be, we're going to have apples the size of our head that are so delicious. I remember this, as a little kid, my mother telling me all this stuff, you know what I mean? And so I guess that part of it, I guess, eventually kind of ran out with my father, and he realized that he just didn't want anything to do with it, and so he left, and after that, that's when things kind of started to get difficult. I was associated with a member in the Lowell congregation in Massachusetts. His name was Randy Carbonell. He's actually in prison now for doing what he did to me to another child. And I myself was molested and raped by a member of the congregation that I was entrusted to be able to go out and field service with and spend time with us. So he tried to act like he was going to be a kind of a father figure for me. Now that my father was separated from the Witnesses, and that really affected me, because I went to my mother and I did tell her what happened, and it seemed like she just couldn't believe that the Witnesses would allow something like that to be, and so I was kind of forced to kind of shove that down, and and as I said, I was raised with 3 brothers and 2 sisters. There was 6 of us. My older brother, I don't know exactly what went on with him, but I know that he must have suffered something to some extent, because he's kind of he has his issues, and I got involved with him at a fairly young age, well, actually, let me backtrack a little bit here. So when I was about about 11 years old, I decided that I was going to get baptized. At this point, I had kind of already realized that I had gotten past all that guilt and stuff you go through as a child, being raised as a witness. Like you do like little things that any child would do, but you feel guilt over it because you feel like you're going against God and the religion. And so at that age, I realized that, like I wasn't going to get struck by a lightning bolt for not, for like watching a TV show that wasn't quite along with that didn't go quite along with the things that I was supposed to believe in. But I realized that the things I did with religion made my mother happy, so I decided to get baptized. And so when I was about 12, I got baptized as a brother. I auxiliary pioneered for about 6 months, and it made my mom really happy. But I was essentially miserable. And my older brother had already separated himself from the religion and from the family, and I started associating with him. And so in my early teens, I kind of separated, and my mom didn't realize it because she put me into homeschooling when I was 12 also, because she didn't want me associating with the kids that I was associating with, and she felt that homeschooling was a better option for me. But instead, while she was at work, when I was about 13 years old, I got into trafficking drugs around the city. I won't go into great detail about that, but I made I kind of when I realized that I wasn't like there wasn't going to be repercussions for things that I did that I was taught growing up, I kind of went crazy and just went wild. And I just went out there and I was a menace, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I just, at least I continued with my education to a certain extent. So from when I was about 13 till I was about 16, I completed my homeschooling with high school, and I went out to California to become a Microsoft certified systems engineer at the Computer Science Institute of California. I was out there for about a year and a half, and that's at the point in my life when I started to really, I guess, abuse drugs. I didn't realize I was an addict at that point. But I still had a lot of guilt, even though I knew that I wasn't going to be ultimately punished directly for the things that I was involved with. There was always this guilt that sat in my stomach for even some of the littlest things. Even if I was aware, you know what I mean? I always had this guilt in my stomach. I would be just nauseous over silly things that that I guess a normal person may not be so concerned about, But yeah, so I got involved with, as I was completing my schooling out there, I got involved with a little bit with meth for a couple months, and I thankfully I didn't end up in jail or anything. I almost did, but thankfully I ended up coming back here and I got away from it. And I thought coming back to Massachusetts was going to be the answer to me getting away from all that stuff. And I think that the reason why I got involved with drugs was because I was always looking for an escape. I was always looking for a way to get that feeling of guilt from my stomach, to get, to escape those feelings that I was feeling that that I'm doing something wrong, that I'm not, that I'm not right, So I came back here to Massachusetts, and I went back to my brother, associating with him, and I started to and at that point I got back involved with some things I shouldn't have been involved with. I earned money and I lived pretty comfortably, but it was ultimately you look back and you realize some of the things you did maybe as a child and when you were younger were not the right choice. When I was about 20, and I met this girl, she was actually 17 years old, and she had a son. He was about a year old, and she had been through a lot of stuff. She wasn't a witness or anything like that, but she had been through a lot of trauma in her life, and we connected. When I was about 21, we got married. She was pregnant with my son at the time, and she was 18. And so we got married. we ended up actually moving to South Carolina. We were living in New Hampshire at the time, and we decided to go to South Carolina. A friend that I had grown up with, who was a witness, wanted to help me out and get me on the right track, get me, working in an honest job, doing the right thing, So we went down there, and I got an honest job. I was washing windows, doing framing, doing whatever I could to earn a living to support my family. And my son was about a month old. My wife came back up here to visit family, and she connected with my older brother, who, as I told you, had a lot of his own issues and whatnot. And long story short, she ended up about 3 days after she arrived up here. One morning, I was trying to call her. I knew that my brother, his girlfriend, and my wife, my son and my stepson, who was 3 years old. My son was about a month old at the time. They were at a hotel, and I was calling all morning trying to reach her. And my brother finally answered the phone after I'd been calling for about 8 hours. And I was like, I want to talk to my wife. And the first thing he says to me is, I'll have her call you back. And I hear his girlfriend yelling at him in the background, like, tell him what's happening, tell him what's going on. And my brother says to me, he's like, Luke, I think she's dead. And I'm like, What do you mean? Do you think she's dead? Like, what? And he's like, I woke up and she's on the floor. She made a bed for herself, but she's not moving. She's dead. Like, she's gone. And, at that point, I don't know. I really can't remember what I was thinking at that point. Obviously, I'm 21 years old. And being told my 18-year-old wife is dead. So I called my mother, actually, and my mom went to the hotel and got my stepson and my son, who was a month old. My stepson was about 3 years old. She gathered them and she called me from the hotel, and she's like, Luke, she's gone. I don't know what happened, but I can tell. I went in the room and she's dead. She's gone.
I'm so sorry.
So it turned out that my brother gave her some cocaine that was very pure, and it killed her. And she died, unfortunately, with my 3-year-old and my baby right there with her, And that really kind of sent me into a spiral, I guess. I came back to Massachusetts and I stayed with my mother. One of the agreements to stay with my mother, she was helping with my sons, was that I would attend the Kingdom Hall again. So I went back to the Kingdom Hall. And even though, everything in me, fought against, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be a part of the Kingdom Hall. I really didn't. And I still did it. And, the elders had a little bit of compassion. I guess they took me back, and they talked to me, and they, instead of disfellowshipping me for everything that I had been involved with from the time when I was 12 until I was, at that point, 21, they publicly reproved me, which was very embarrassing thing to, go through, And even though I say they had some compassion, but even doing that to somebody that just lost their wife and they're 21 years old, your whole life you felt fell to pieces, and couldn't do that to you. It's extremely embarrassing to be involved in something like that. I just kind of tried to hold on, Shortly after that, I had surgery. They gave me opiates for the pain, and I quickly spiraled from pharmaceutical opiates to heroin. I guess, like I said, I was always looking for an escape. I didn't realize at that point that I was really an addict. It was kind of something that I realized later on. Let me think. I studied around for a few years with my mom, trying to put myself together. I was actually publicly reproved twice by the whole congregation.
Oh, God!
They publicly reproved me about a year later, and after that happened, and I think it was about 2005. I tried to take my own life. I took a bottle of medication along with some other medications that I had, and I don't really remember what happened. I know that I woke up in Bridgewater State Prison, strapped to a table in 4-point restraints. And I had to spend a month down the Mass Acts program they have there. It's a mass alcohol and drug treatment program they have in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. And so you're basically in a prison, but they put you in classes and they try to teach you about. I mean, it's Massachusetts kind of. They take people that they feel are a danger to themselves, society, and they try to educate them on their addiction and whatnot. At that point, DSS was involved. They said that even though my son wasn't with me, my children weren't with me when I tried to take my life. They said that I still was not available for them, so that was neglect. And so my stepson went to his biological father, which is a whole other thing that has nothing to really to do with the witness a whole lot. He was from Egypt, and he was a very abusive person. From what I understand now, he was good to my stepson, though, and he gave him a good life, and I guess I can be grateful for that. But my mom ended up taking custody of my biological son, who was at this point about 4 years old. And I'm sorry, actually, he was actually 3 years old. And he ended up, I got out of the program. I went to live with my father. It was a really difficult thing. I was trying to meet with the DSS requirements, what they required of me to be able to, get custody of my son back. And it just all felt so impossible. You know what I mean? It felt like it was just, I was just like, I was just fighting against a tide that I'd never be able to beat, Mm-hmm. At this point, I've been estranged from all my brothers and sisters. They all, even till this day, my brothers and sisters, like we really don't have much contact with each other. Maybe some of them might be a little closer with each other than others are, but they all blame religion and drugs and alcohol basically on destroying our family. I have maybe one brother that's still a Jehovah's Witness that's still involved with the witnesses. He seems to be happy with it. I hope that he is, and then he's actually probably the one that's the kindest to me of all my brothers and sisters. But he has, you can tell that, at times he doesn't seem totally right, but, he's at least, kind to me and stuff. I was never really willing to come on and share my full name and everything because of my fear of being cut off from my son because of my mother. But at this point, my mother's now, she's in a nursing home. She's dying. She has a disorder that mimics Alzheimer's and dementia. And she's, in her late 70s. Actually, I just went to see her this past Friday with my son. And she's deteriorating, she still remembers who we are, which is nice, but you can see that she's not who she used to be, It seems like kind of like the Jehovah's Witness has kind of come out of her. She's a very basic person at this point, She's extremely kind, and eventually, once in a while, she'll say, "Praise Jehovah, thank Jehovah, pray to Jehovah regularly," but ultimately, she's almost like a child, at this point. So now, my son's now 20 years old. He's doing well. He's living on his own. He's working hard, providing for himself. And me and him have a good relationship. Thank God we really actually do have a very good relationship. I've been remarried now for 7 years. Me and my wife just celebrated our 7th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And, I guess things have been difficult, though. As of recently, we were basically homeless for a little while. We're still trying to put our stuff together. Actually, thanks to Rick, he's been a major support to us. He has done so much for us that I can't even begin to thank him for and to explain how much he's done to help us in this situation. Like, we would not have a place to be right now if he didn't put his neck out there for us. If he didn't do what he's done. And honestly, things though, now are probably better than they have been for a long time. And I'm just, I'm still trying to recover from it all though. I still sometimes get that guilt in my stomach, like, I did this, I did that. And then I have to remind myself that, that I'm not going to be punished for, the mistakes that I've made. I think I punished myself enough for a lot of mistakes I made in my life,
It just sounds to me. Go ahead.
I was going to say my older brother, who I was involved with as a younger child, the one that gave as in a teenager to my early 20s, he's now in prison. He's been in prison most of his life. Since my wife passed, he served about 7 or 8 years for that. He got out of jail. He committed another crime. I won't go into details, but he is now serving 20 to 40 years in a New Hampshire state prison. He has a chance to parole in 2028. I don't know if he'll get it. I doubt he will. But even if he does, I don't think I want him as part of my life anymore, because he's always wreaked havoc. Every time I've allowed him into my life, I've gone a way that I realize now is not the way I need to go, and I need to kind of, I'd like the relationship with most of my other family, but most of them just don't want anything to do with me. They don't want anything to do with anybody, and they mainly blame religion and drugs partially for what tore apart our family and destroyed our family. And as kids, we were very close knit, and growing up, we were very close knit, but it's just kind of torn my family apart, and my family is literally in pieces now. There was 6 of us, and barely any of us talked to each other because of the way we were raised and the things that took place for us. I wasn't the only one that was abused as a child, and I wasn't the only one that things just got swept under the carpet and forgotten about. So I don't blame the witnesses totally for all my mistakes or anything, but I do blame the way that I was raised and the things that I was taught and the things that I believed for me thinking a certain way, for me feeling a certain way. You know what I'm saying?
I totally,
at this point, I'm just trying to, salvage what feeling I can. Like I said, me and my son have a great relationship. I'm remarried. I kind of have a new family, and I'm just, I'm trying to, hold on to that and do my best.
Luke, it seems like you have always done your best. You did the best you can every moment of your life with what was in front of you. The damage done to your father is insane. And then, of course, you had damage done to you, and you're all over the place. Damage done to people causes damage down the road, and you've done the best you could. But it sounds to me like you have a very, very hypersensitive nature. You want everybody to approve of you. You want to know that you're doing the right thing. But it's like you expected way too much of yourself, because it seems like everybody else expected way too much of you. And what was your coping mechanism? You did the best you could. I'm amazed you're still here.
At times I am too, honestly. It's, I don't know. I try not to, I try to take responsibility for myself these days, and not and try not to blame, the way I was raised and whatnot on the actions I take and the mistakes that I make. But I do know that as a younger person, it played a huge role in what I did and how I handled things,
Absolutely.
Could I interject a thought, Luke, Anne-Marie? Could I interject a thought? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Luke, I'm so proud of you, what you've done with your life. I know Rick's been the catalyst for that, but a lot of the reasons why people get into deep sin, drugs, and all that other stuff is because, you can't live up to the standards that Jehovah's Witnesses want you to live up to. They want you to be out thrilled to go door to door, in places like Lowell. Not very thrilling. I've done that. So I know. but it leads to depression. And you know, when when you can't match the bar that they have set for you, when you can't reach that goal, you go into depression because they're going to put you on a guilt trip. And once you're depressed, you'll do anything. You'll cheat on your wife. I know I've done it. That organization is cruel. I know what happened to your dad. Your dad was one of my best friends when you folks first came to Lowell. And I don't know if you remember this, Luke, but I remember you being in the playpen with Mike Stephen while your mother Sheena was out door to door. And when my wife wanted to go door to door, she brought Stephen over to your house, and your kids played together. You know, I know your dad real well, and you know what? He was an excellent human being. He tried so hard to do so many things well, and he just couldn't. He was getting no acknowledgement from the JWs. He worked hard, and I can remember he gave me a book of poetry that he wrote. And you know, I think of myself as kind of a hard guy, you know. But I read his poetry. I started to cry. I really did. I'm not putting you on. He was a wonderful. And the JWs, you know, the JW's governing body, they destroyed him. They destroyed him. And you know, I'm so thrilled that Rick is mentoring you, because you couldn't get a better mentor anywhere on the planet than Rick Farron. Thank you all.
I agree. Rick is like a father to me. You know what I'm saying? I have lost my biological father, but I still have a father to look to. I still have somebody that I can look to and see how they're living their life, and see how they do things to look to. You know, I mean, I'm 43 years old, but I kind of still need that. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, I still have a lot of growing to do because of the drugs I've abused and the things I've done. I still have a lot of growing to do, but I'm trying my best. And as I said, things are a lot better right now than they've been for a very long time.
Well, that's
just another thought. I'm sorry, Marie, I didn't mean to cut you off. You mentioned Randy Carbonell. Never met a sweeter guy in my life. I don't know what the witnesses did to him. I know he had some problems with the girl that he married, and now he's in prison. That's another notch of a destroyed life on the Watchtower's belt. They are absolutely horrible.
Well, Randy Carbonell is a sick pedophile, and
is he really? Do you know that congregation? When I was in it, I knew of 5 pedophiles, because I studied with Dave Kenny, who was a pedophile. The elders asked me to study with him, but I didn't even know what the word pedophile meant at the time. So, but anyway, yeah, that congregation was loaded with them. I didn't know Randy Carbonell was one of them. I mean, I knew his wife. I mean, Bailey knew his wife, but he was
out assaulting a young girl at a public pool.
Oh, really? What a shame, because I had him over my house plenty of times too. Really? Sheesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, boy.
He's in prison, because at points in my life, if he wasn't in prison, I might have gotten to him, and I think that I didn't, because I could be in prison now for it, right?
Yeah, well, that's, you know, they don't have a lot of longevity in prison when they know you're a pedophile.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get bent over or stabbed or whatever. That's certainly the way. Well, look, I say it again. I am just so proud of you and what you've done, how you've turned your life around, and you just keep on going. I think your wife's a sweetheart. I know we went to the Songus Arena and protested Jehovah's Witnesses, and you and your wife were with me and Connie, and it's just nice to know that, you're on our team.
Thank you.
We love you, Luke. We love you, sweetheart.
Thank you.
I hope you know that's Connie. That's Connie's voice.
Thank you,
All right,
Carter.
We love you guys.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you, honey.
That was my wife, obviously. But it has helped me over the years. I shared my story in part a little bit quite a few years ago, actually, while I was in a mental hospital. But I did from the phone there briefly. It wasn't a very long interview, but I don't think I used my real name. I was still at the time fearful of losing contact with my son. As I said, my mom, she adopted him, and she kind of raised him. I was in his life on and off, and I wish I had done more. But as I said, he's 20 years old now, and he's doing really well for himself. He's working hard. He keeps an apartment, a roof over his head, and pays his bills. And me and him are very close. And I guess I can't be more grateful for anything than that. At least I have my son in my life, and we're close. And he doesn't hold anything against me. He understands, because he himself was raised as a witness, and he himself even today calls it a cult. Thankfully, he didn't have to endure the abuse that I endured, but he still, has a lot of emotions over it. And maybe one day I'll get him to come on the program and talk a little bit.
That'd be nice. That would be nice. Yeah. Well, goodness.
Well, this is Rick Farron, and I have to tell you, I've got Luke and his wife here with me, and I tell you, they are moving in the right direction. They both are workers. These guys love to work. His wife as well. I mean, she's upset if there's no work. She climbs up ladders. She hangs signs on the side of buildings. She gets in a little lift that we get to put signs up. She is a worker and a half, and I'm proud of them as well. But I must say that I came across Luke years ago. Well, it was about 12 years ago that actually 13 years ago, I met Luke in a McDonald's. And I was looking for someone to help us here at the Six Screens because, well, at the time, there was no live Facebook. There was no live YouTube. So we were just doing our radio broadcast on the telephone. And so along came this product called the Video Suite. And it was now a way that people could make themselves visible by using a webcam. So for the first time, we set that up, and I couldn't do it. I didn't have the ability, the knowledge. So Luke came along, and he helped me set that all up, and he stayed with me for, well, every Saturday night for 3 weeks until I could learn the program. But that really was something that was unique and different. We were the first ones really to go on a program live like that. And there was no other venues where you could do that live. But this Video Suite enabled us to do that. So then, of course, it sprung along, and I got to know Luke a lot better. And I started having him work in the sign business with us. And so he became our technician here. We got 2 technicians, really, not on a full-time basis, but we have 2 technicians that help me to be able to put a lot of this stuff together on the Six Screens. Because, friends, it can be a technological nightmare, especially when you're doing something live. Right now, I've got actually four computer screens running, and I have the different platforms that we're on, so I can kind of keep an eye on what's going on out there as people listening in from all over the world. So I think it's a wonderful thing that our little broadcast, our little network is really gaining a lot of momentum. But I want to thank Luke for helping us do that. If it wasn't for his efforts and his understanding of technology, we would still be back in the dinosaur age. But Luke has brought us on, and we got some really good things, some really good things planned for the future. We're working on the Six Screens website, which Luke is working on. We're bringing that. It's under construction right now, but we're bringing that all up to speed. So we got a good future to look forward to, and I really appreciate Luke and his wife. They really can be very, very enlightening and they've helped me here a lot, and I appreciate it, really do.
Thank you, Rick, very much for the acknowledgement and for saying that. I appreciate your help a great deal too. You have literally saved me from probably going back to what I did when I was younger and trying to take my own life at this point with everything I've been through in this past year. And you have been that light that has kept us pushing on. And thank you so much. I love you.
Well, I love you too, Luke. And then the way that I look at all of this, I'm a Christian man, and I can't, make everyone become a Christian. But I have a lot of hope. I have a lot of hope that things are always going to get better. Now, people say, Rick, you're looking through rose-colored glasses, but I have to tell you, I have a lot of hope, even for our little Six Screens network here, that it is really working. And we've been talking about a convention that we're going to be sponsoring in the year 2025. Still Alive in 2025 is the name of the convention. And Luke's been working with me on that, and we're going to be able to get that pulled off, and he'll be a technician there as well and help us to be able to broadcast this all around the world and do a really good job at it. So there's a lot of good things to look forward to, folks. But I have to tell you one thing, that you've got to move on technologically. This world is becoming very difficult to live in if you can't do all of this stuff. And just to be able to go to the bank, they closed a bunch of banks down around here that I used to go to, but now you just have to go to a little kiosk, a small little kiosk where you go in. There's an ATM machine. So the world is moving in a different way here, but it's been very helpful to me to have a man like Luke. Anne Marie, you still with us? Anne Marie, you still there with us?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. Did you have any more questions for Luke?
I know. I just been amazed listening to his story. It just seems that the thing that stands out to me is his hypersensitivity to everybody's opinion of him, the expectations, being overwhelmed on every avenue of life, through the religion and dealing with insanity and incredible abuse, and a poor damaged father, as wonderful as Mark PALO was. Poor guy was so damaged. And what Watchtower did in the poor kid, as a child, having been raped at Bethel, he was so terrified by his abuser, and I think we should say who it was, but somebody high up in the organization who abused him while his parents were there at Bethel working. They trusted that their little son was safe just wandering around, and that poor little child, as a baby being abused, was so scared he didn't even tell his parents. He didn't tell anybody. How can somebody live like that and be so scared? We're supposed to be in God's organization, so safe. Everybody loves you, yet you're so terrified you can't even tell your own parents what happened to you. So, and poor Luke, he had to suffer part of it too, because you can't be raised by damaged people in a horribly abusive, controlling, tyrannical cult such as Watchtower. And he got baptized at 12 and started auxiliary pioneering. And I'm like listening to him going, I can't even try to imagine one day of the stress and the incredible sense of a burden that poor Luke was carrying from such a young age every single day. And I'm amazed at you, Luke, and I want to thank you. But just hang in there every day. Tell yourself, I'm doing my best. You're a good man, Luke. You are a phenomenal man. I'm so grateful that you know Rick and your wife knows Rick, because he and Susan, they're such good, truly good people. And you're safe. You know that your trust is never, ever going to be betrayed. And that's one thing that I'm so grateful for. And we all get to share that because of the forum, the platform that Rick provides for all of us. Anything you want to add, my dear brother Luke?
No, it's been kind of freeing to actually come be able to say everything that I said now. When I came on the program before, like I said, I wasn't even willing to share my real name. So yeah, it's been freeing. You know, there was a couple times I was almost in tears, and I didn't think that I still had the emotions over those things that I still do. And no, this has definitely helped me to really be out there and just tell my whole story and be honest about it. Be honest about what I did and mistakes I made and where I am now. It's definitely, I think it's definitely helped me, and then maybe may help me meet another milestone, you know. So thank you
Oh,
to
I
you
hope
and
so.
to Rick and to everybody. Thank you, Dick, for sharing what you shared. And I do remember actually being a child with Stephen when I said I went to South Carolina to a friend that was trying to help me straighten out my life. That was his son, Steve Borgie, who I'm still very close with, friends with today, who I still talk to almost a couple times a week now, who I grew up with as a witness. And Stephen is still Joe's witness, but he's not judgmental, and he's still a very strong support and close friend in my life. I have pictures of me and him together with my son, who was a little tiny, a little pea. He was a month old. And I have pictures of me and Stephen with my son. And me and Stephen are still very close till this day. And Stephen has been a great support in my life. Even being a witness, he's still a very well-balanced person, and he works very hard to take care of his family and do what he needs to do. And he's an example for me. And Dick, you had a part in playing that. You know what I'm saying? You did raise him as a child, and I don't know what the relationship is between you two, and I don't want to get into that, but ultimately you did have a part in playing as the man that he is today. And thank you for that.
Thank you. I thank you so much for that. I haven't spoke to my son in 20 years, I think, probably longer than that, and it really breaks my heart. We're living in Easley, South Carolina. I would love to have met his wife. I would love him to meet my new wife. But, the fourth commandment is honor thy father and mother. The Watchtower throws that commandment out the window. They would rather have 20 or 30 years separation between me and my son. I love him.
Honor the Watchtower over your father, your mother, and anybody else that matters to you.
That's right. That's right. And I just want you to know something. I probably should have told you this when I saw you a couple of months ago. But your father was a wonderful man. He was the whole congregation, you made him a pariah, but he wasn't. He was a wonderful, wonderful, very talented. There isn't anything he wasn't knowledgeable about. Nothing. Whether it was electronics, carpentry, chemistry, he was knowledgeable, and he taught me a lot. And I loved the guy. I really did. He was so you can be proud of your father. I mean, yeah, the next day he's a drunk, and he had a problem with alcohol, absolutely. But if it wasn't for the Watchtower, he wouldn't have a problem with alcohol. He would have been a very successful man at anything he wanted to do. And I thank you for coming on Six Screens. Thank you for telling me about Stephen. We know where he lives. He only lives a half hour from me. What?
I'm sorry. As I said, though, Stephen has been a major support in my life. And as I said, he learned that from you. Despite when you guys were separated, just like me and my father, I'll tell you that, my mother demonized my father to me. And how I came to realize who my father was when, after I lost my wife and my son was with my mother, I had nowhere to go. I was on the street, and I was an addict, and I was putting needles in my arm. And my father took me in. He said, I don't care what you're doing. You're not going to sleep on the street. You can have a place on my couch. It's not the best place in the world, but at least you're not out on the street. And my father did that for me, and he never broke his word. He always said, no matter what you do, you'll always have a place with me. My father did that for me for years. And it made me realize that my father wasn't the demon that my mother and the congregation made him out to be. He truly loved his children, and even my brothers and sisters may have issues with him because they didn't have the chance to know him like I did. But they you know, I mean, they have their views because of my mother and what the congregation told them. And that's what they think about my dad. And they might think of that till this day. But I know what my father was because of what he did for me. And the fact that he loved his family enough that he always worked hard. He always paid his child support. He did everything he needed to do to take care of his family. And then he went above and beyond that. And he was always willing to. And I don't believe for a second, Dick, that you were any different from that. You know, I mean, I have my son now, and I would do anything. I'd give my life in 2 seconds for him if it meant for him to live a better life. And I believe that you feel the same way. And, you know, Stephen's a good man, and he really is. He has stuck there by my side all these years. And I've been honest about the mistakes I've made. I've been honest with him about the things I've done. And he's stuck by my side despite the fact that he's still a witness. And, you know, he has a better view of the world than a lot of other witnesses do. But he still stands there by my side. And that I think that has a lot to do with, you know, I mean, him being raised when he was young, knowing, you know what I'm saying, what he was taught. And I'm sorry that you guys are separated at this point, and I wish that I could do something to make it different. But just know that he's a good man, and he's living a good life, and he's working hard, and he's taking care of his family and doing what he needs to do because of what you taught him as a child.
Well, look, I'm very, very appreciative of those kind words. I just have one question. Does Stephen have any children?
No, he doesn't. He has 2 dogs. He has 2. He has 2 dogs that he got just about a year ago. They're beautiful golden retrievers, and he went through a great deal of trouble to get purebred golden retrievers. Those are his children right now that he's taking care of. But he takes care of his wife very well, and he's a good man. And he works hard. He works very hard to make a living.
I don't know what that was. That wasn't my side.
Well, what that is, I'm here at the 6 Screens. I just wanted to, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to pull up a clip. I have a clip of Luke's father. He had a program here on the 6 Screens called Watchtower Behind Closed Doors. He did that program for 3 years, and then he got sick and couldn't do it much longer. But you guys were talking earlier, and I want to say I confided in Mark a lot. He's also voiced his thoughts on the Watchtower and who it was that actually did rape him. So I do have a clip. You just listen to a little bit of Mark. I think you'll find it fascinating. Let's listen in. Well, there it is. That was Mark PALO. That's Luke's father, and of course he's deceased now. He's not with us. He passed away. But anyways, he talked about it on the 6 Screens. The man that he says actually abused him and molested him when he was just, I think he said he was 8 years old, was a man by the name of Leo Greenlees. And if any of you people on this program have been following the problems Jehovah's Witnesses have had with child molestation, the name Leo Greenlees comes up. He was a known pedophile at the Watchtower. And they kept him there for a while, even knowing this. But eventually they shipped him out, just like the Catholic Church does. They move these guys on. But that's who Mark PALO was raped by. And that rape caused so many problems in Mark PALO's life. And then it also really created problems in his children's lives as well, all because of that rape. Yes, go ahead, Luke.
Leo Greenleaf, I'll say it now because the names are put out there. He was a member of the governing body. He wasn't just a elder or anything. He was literally one of the top leadership. And he's the one that raped my father. He's the one that committed that crime. That shows that it's not just, you know, I mean, the lower echelon or whatnot of the organization that can commit crimes like that. It's anybody in any position, and you put a person in that position of power, and it gives them the power to do things like that. And that's the sick part of it, that somebody takes advantage of that kind of power to hurt somebody to that extent. I just had to say that now that the name was put out there.
Good. Well, thank you, Luke. So, Anne Marie, you
Can I interject a thought?
Go ahead, Dick. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Rick. I was told about Mark's rape by Mark, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. I didn't believe him. You know, I was still in the congregation. I was a servant at the time. I said, I can't believe that. Then you hear things like the Jehovah's Witness governing body member is an officiate with the United Nations. When you first told me that, Rick, I said, "Hey, gee, I don't know. I don't think we should put that out on 6 screens. No one's gonna believe that." You know, then Johnny the Bethelite, you know, says, you know, there's sex trafficking at the governing body. Now, you know, anytime I hear about the perversions that the Watchtower is involved with, the hiding of pedophilia, yeah, now I believe it. And I think a lot of people are going to start believing how sick, demented, and perverted that cult is. Thank you, Rick. What? My phone go off?
Well, anyways, Anne Marie, why don't you wrap the program up? Well, I'm not sure where Anne Marie went, but anyways, what we're going to do here, I don't know if you guys are on the 6 screens video suite. Can you hear me on the 6 screens video suite? Just say yes or no if you can. Okay. Well, I guess we'll have to wrap it. What's that?
My cousin heard this.
All right.
They can hear you.
Ronnie's brother.
No.
And like Kim, who was
Hold on one second.
coach, and
Hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on one second. Anne Marie, still there with us?
Yeah, I've just been listening.
All right. Well, it's your program. Say what you like to say because we're going to wrap it up now. Yeah. What's your last words, Anne Marie?
My last words. Poor Mark PALO. Dick, thank you for coming in and filling up the gap. Dick answered my question. My question was, wasn't Leo Greenleaf a member of the governing body? You know, we hear what they call marking talks and what do they call it? Special needs talks or whatever. You hear it about gossiping and about this and about that. I have never heard a special needs talk about pedophiles in the congregation or pedophiles attacking the Jehovah's Witness children. What Mark went through and what Luke has gone through and his children and his wife, and you know, people are so quick to point fingers like, oh, you're on drugs, oh, you're a whore, oh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, but they don't look at the trauma and the drama and the pain and the abuse that the person has gone through. And I'm sorry, Jehovah's Witnesses are probably the most judgmental, arrogant, self-righteous people I've ever met in my life. And I can say it because I was one of them. But Luke, I want to thank you. Please know my heart goes out to you. We love you. Rick and Susan love you. Dick loves you. We all love you. And I'm so grateful that you were willing to come on and share a very, very difficult story, your story of being in the Watchtower, your walk in the Watchtower. And I'm so glad you're free. I want to thank everyone for coming in this Six Screen Sunday. This is Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their Watchtower story. Today is December 3rd, 2023, and we need to go to Rick and JW World News Sunday edition.
Well, thank you very much, Anne-Marie. And boy, we thank Luke for coming on as well and being part of the program today. That was really good. That was really a great testimony. And friends, this is no kidding here. This isn't some type of a program where we tried to sensationalize things and, embellish it. You're hearing from real stories of people that have been touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower. And, it was brought up during the broadcast today. It's too bad this man, David Bildo, who comes in, who was studying with the witnesses, it's really a shame he didn't come in today to hear this story. This was an amazing story. And I think he would have kind of said, hey, wait a minute, there is something wrong in the witness world. So I wish David was with us today, but I want him to listen to more of these programs. He was in last night, but he really has to see. He doesn't really believe a lot of the things we say here on our Exposing the Watchtower Network. And I want him to hear some of these real stories. I think he'll really begin to understand that the Watchtower is an evil organization. Well, thank you all for coming in today to Watchtower. Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their story of being in the Watchtower. We're going to end it here. We're going to go to JW World News. Why don't you come with us? We'll be over there in give us about 2 minutes, and we'll start our JW World News coming up next right here on the Six Screens Tele Network. Thank you very much.